and the summary. Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning, this course is focused on creating your own podcast to not only create great content to build your audience, but also to attract potential partnerships. Also, at the end, we are going to talk for a bit on how you can get into other people's podcasts as well, and strategies to do that. Now, why I love podcasting so much, I want to start from there to put things into context. I'm an experimenter. I love to try a lot of things in this industry. Something new comes out, I want to be one of the first to try. AI comes out, I want to be one of the first. Webinars comes out, I wanted to be one of the first. And I have the spirit of experimenting things. That's what I love doing. And I remember 6 years ago, where live streaming wasn't a thing before. If you remember, like 6-7 years ago, live streaming, there were not many platforms. It wasn't as popular. And there was this platform called Blab. Anyone remembers of Blab or heard of Blab? There were only few people that were using. It became the precursor of softwares like StreamYard, of social media platform that will allow multiple people to be on the screen together. That's why Blab became so viral, because it was one of the first social media platform that will allow people to connect, but also create this shared experience that we have here in a social media setting. And I started playing with that. And I was having so many interesting conversations that I had the idea to start recording the conversations that I had. Podcasting at the time wasn't as popular as it is now. So there were very few podcasts and very few podcasters compared to now. And immediately I loved the medium. I love the medium because it was building a relationship with people, having great conversations, things that I would be interested in, topics that I'm passionate about, with people that I will never be able to have a conversation with or never be able to meet. And on top of that, I was creating content that I could reuse as well for the people that were following me at the time, which was very small group. We're talking about 6-7 years ago. And since then, I created the podcast, my first podcast, and I didn't miss a beat. Every week, we have been releasing at least between 1 to 3 episodes for a period of 5 years, 5-6 years, with more than almost 500 episodes that we have published so far. It's been an incredible journey. It's been an absolutely incredible journey. Now, what I didn't realize is the power of podcasting to create strategic partnerships. And that was almost like a byproduct. I didn't go into podcasting for this particular reason. I went into podcasting because cool way to create content. I love having a chat with people. I love having a chat about topics that I'm passionate about. There wasn't any strategy behind it. It just happened. And then the strategy came on later. So then I started becoming more strategic with the podcast. And there are a few things that helped me make the most of the show over the years, considering that it's a very small show. Like compared to the number of episodes, building audiences and getting the show to have a lot of listeners has never been my biggest skill. That's not my greatest skill in terms of building a lot of big audiences. But what I'm great at is maximizing small audiences and making the most of them. That's where my genius is. And that's the approach that I've also been using with the podcast. And the first thing to know and to be clear about when you are creating your podcast is what is the end goal? What is the end goal? Because your end goal will determine the nature of the podcast. And the question for you become, what if you were to do a podcast? Because by the end of this training, if you don't have a podcast, you might realize, no, podcasting is not for me. I don't want to do it. Or you might say, actually, no, this is something I would love to give it a go. So for you, if you were to do a podcast, what would the aim be for your show? What would be the end goal? What would you like to create? And what would you like to receive? Because having that in mind will help you also direct what the format of the show is going to be about. And also will help you create longevity. So what I want you to do right now is to have a moment. I'm just going to put some background music and start thinking about what will be the end goal for your show. What is the aim of your podcast? If you were to create one, what will be the end goal? Now, once you have this idea, once you have clarified the idea, now you can also go into the Padlet board and you can see that we have the podcast mastery worksheet. So if you open your podcast mastery worksheet, you can see that at the beginning we'll have your worksheet ready. You will not be able to edit on the worksheet, so make sure that you do file, download, so you can download it, or you can add your or you can make a copy in your own drive. So either you make a copy in your own drive or you download it, but don't don't request for permission to edit, because this is the template. And in the aim part, that's where I will allow you to take your notes. All right, what will be the aim? What will be the goal of the show? So I'm gonna give you about 2 to 3 minutes to think about it, and then we're going to come back with the next exercise. Hello, Sean.
Hi, excuse me. I'm slightly bedraggled, but I was like, I am gonna make it here.
That's good. Thank you for making it. So to give you an idea what we are doing right now, if you go on the Padlet board, the link is, I just put the link in the chat. And then you open the worksheet. The first thing that we are doing is looking at the aim of the podcast. And the question is, if you were to create your own podcast, do you have already your own podcast or not? No. Okay, so if you were to create your own podcast, what will the end goal be for you? Why would you create it for you?
Okay.
Because having that why will create the direction of what the format of the show then will be like as well. Okay, everyone else, you got 1 more minute. If you already decided, you can write your reason why in the chat, your aim in the chat. So then I can pick up some of the things. You can copy and paste what you've written in your document.
If it's okay, if it's like a real just about me aim.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah.
Whatever your aim is going to be at the beginning, and then you can develop and evolve as you go along. right, last 30 seconds. Okay. And time. So by now, everyone should have an idea, even if you have not written in the chat yet. Everyone by now should have an idea about what the goal and the aim is. The last one, Deborah, like we're together, like minded consultants, have a panel discussion. Okay, so now you have an idea about where you want to go with the show. Now, of course, if you don't have a podcast yet, you will see that your idea will evolve over time. So be open that your show as well might change direction, that your show might change your name. The good thing about podcasting is people build a relationship with you as the host. That's what I love about podcasting. Throughout the podcast, throughout the 5-6 years I've run my podcast, I've changed topic and angle at least 3 times and renamed it at least 3 times. But every time I let people know why. I let people know this is where I'm going next. And then the people that will want to be part of this new chapter of my journey will follow me. And then the people that will not be relevant anymore, they will just leave it there. And they say, okay, no, well, this is not the show that I want to listen to anymore. The next thing to be clear, when we are creating the podcast, when we are creating your podcast, is knowing the audience that you want to attract. Now, normally, and this is the aim, like this is the audience that you want to attract will depend on the aim of the podcast, right? So if your aim is to be positioned in your industry, if your aim of the show is to get more clients, if the aim of the show is to build your audience of potential clients, then the target audience needs to be the target audience of your potential clients, of your ideal clients. Now, it is not always that way, because there are people, for example, that decide to have a podcasting strategy where the aim is for them to have a podcast which is not a niche podcast, but is more like a talk show. And their aim is to build a public profile. So if the aim is to build a public profile, actually the topic of choice needs to be very general topics that people will cover in the news, in tabloids, and you will see massive shows and shows that are built with large audiences that have things that people that just want to listen, whether it's sports shows, whether it's talk shows, whether it's business, or in the business world, business shows, but is not focused on a particular audience. They are looking at, for example, the category of entrepreneurs. It will be the entire category of entrepreneurs. The category of women, they're looking for the entire spectrum of particular women. And in this case, if you want to use your podcast to connect with the ideal clients, and in the formats later, we're going to see how we can switch up the different formats and content to achieve this goal, then the target audience needs to be the audience that you want to have as an ideal client. Because in particular, right now, for knowing you here, I will not recommend you to create, and this is also not the course about, to create a talk show to go mass market. This is about creating something niche that the people that you want to attract, they will listen to you and say, okay, this is the show for me. This show is talking directly to me. So right now, take a couple of minutes and type a few notes, type information about your ideal audience. If you already have it clear in mind, you don't even need to write it down, but I just want to give you a couple of minutes to focus on who that ideal person is. If you've done this work already, great. Just pick the elements of the work that you have done already. If you're not 100% clear, just put the ideas that you have. But I know pretty much everyone here has an idea about who their ideal audience is. And Clive, for you, I will focus on the ex-military concept that we have started building, right? So that will be your ideal audience. Sean.
I come here with lots of questions, Simone.
Let's go.
So I started self-studying this course in the membership areas a couple of weeks ago. And I felt really driven to do this podcast, the second one that I've written down, right? To learn from female CEOs who are unapologetic and doing pioneering things in sustainability and probably in tech. And then I got like a bit scared. And then I got like, but I like men too. Like, shall I focus on just females? Because the center is men and women. So then that's, like I said, I had like a really strong feeling, a really strong definition. And then I got like weak and confused. And now I'm back to the same question. And the first one I typed in there was like, just be independent local location. So maybe you could help me a bit with that.
I think that if you had a strong feeling about going with that audience, because I think that you can use your podcast to build, it's almost like the cross section for you to build a relationship with strategic partners and also interview people or talk about topics that you're passionate about, right? Because that's where the next part we're looking at the topic. Now, if you were to go with the idea of interviewing female CEOs that you look up to, one of the benefits of this, it could be also extending your SDG work to their companies or organizations. So they could be potential partners in that way. So you can also approach it in a strategic way. I think that I will go a level deeper. Rather than female CEOs, I would do like female CEOs that might have a sustainability angle or that are doing great things in the sustainability space. Because that would also position you in the market for what you are, for the business that you do, for what you want to be known for. So now you can merge both of them. But if you had a strong feeling and something like that, hey, go for it.
I even made a boss like picture and everything was good. And then I was like, oh, I'm scared, run away.
All right, no, let's go for it. Let's go for it.
That's why I'm here. Like, boost me. I need boosted right now to just go with that feeling, you know?
You are in the right place. You are in the right place. So everyone else here, do you have clarity on the audience that you would like the listeners to, that you would love the listeners to be? The audience that you want to attract? Give me a yes in the chat if you have that. Okay. Anyone know? Or not sure?
I'm sorry, I missed the question. I got diverted.
Yeah, if you're clear about the audience.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Andrea, in this case, what in your case, I will start with something around leadership, because whether you are focusing with senior leaders, middle leaders, like the topic and the audience will be people that are in managerial position that are interested in growing their leadership skills. And then you can decide to adjust from there, but that's what I will start if I was in your shoes. Dave, and then Shelley.
Just a suggestion, anyone doing leadership stuff, wherever you are in the world, join the organization. There's the Global Speakers Federation has, like, National Speakers Association is a member of that. So find your local GSF organization. In the US, it's NSA. In Canada, it's CAPS. There's a bunch of them around the world.
UK is the PSA, yeah.
Yeah, PSA. Join that, because you will end up with amazing guests for leadership or just about any other topic. Yeah. That's like right there in your backyard. And since you're a podcaster, you're a speaker. So you should join that organization and get involved. It's just a win-win, but you'll have endless amazing guests.
What if you don't want guests?
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later, about the format and why, if we should have guests, if we should not have guests, when guests come into play. So we'll talk about that. But definitely it's good to have connections. I know, Joanne, you're part of the PSA as well. You joined recently. Shan.
Thanks. So now I've rounded it up to female founders of basic sustainable green tech companies. Right? That really interests me. But also I think there'll be some conversations I want to have with some guys who are green tech. So how would that be wise, or would that just dilute it, or would it be guys who are supporting women in tech, around the green tech field?
I would not. So one of the things that you can do with a podcast, because later we will discuss on the names. Later we'll discuss on the name. What you can have, the podcast can work in seasons. For example, you could have a season which is all women. You could have a season which is all men. You could have a season which is all like a slightly different topic. What's important is that the umbrella is the same. I'll give you an example of a podcast that I love to listen to that works really well in season. The podcast is called Business Wars. I love that show. Business Wars. It takes all different companies and analyzes the fight between and the wars between competitions. So it could be Apple versus Microsoft, Netflix versus Blockbuster, and tells the stories about those companies. Now, what I love about it is because every season will have a different story, which means that the title of the show, Business Wars, encompasses is more like the umbrella, and then every season can be slightly different. Lovelda used to have a show, and it was called, in this case, the Lovelda Show. And she had different seasons, and sometimes it was just, it was the Women of Power show. It was the Women of Power
I was
show.
a guest.
You were a guest, exactly.
Yeah.
The Women of Power show. But then she did a season where she was interviewing men. And said, we are in the Women of Power show. On this season, we are doing a special on men, but the entire rest was about women, about women's of power, right? So that's where the idea can develop and can evolve. Now, what I would love you to do, because this is now the choice that will determine also the conversation and the nature of the conversation, is the macro, is the umbrella of the topic that you are going to talk about. Because now you have the idea of the aim, what is the goal for the podcast, you know who the listeners will be. Now let's look at the topic that you want to get known for and that you want to be the umbrella for the show. Now this is really important, because if you go too deep, it could be that it could be easy either after a while to get bored about talking about the same specific topic. It could be that also you have less flexibility of the kind of guests that you have. And on the other side, if someone is looking specifically for that particular podcast, it will be more likely for them to show in the chart. So there is pros and cons in both of them. Now, for the purpose of this course, and if the goal is to create content, to attract your ideal clients, and to build partnerships with ideal clients, with potential partners, what I would love you to do is to go into, think about the field where you're in, the ideal audience, and look at the macro topic. So don't go really specific. An example could be, if you're a specialist in SEO, the topic of the show, the macro topic of the show is marketing. If you are a specialist on sleep, the macro topic of the show is health and well-being. Now, there can be a lot of episodes around sleep where you're talking about sleep, but then if you only have as a topic sleep, it will be more difficult to establish potential partnerships at scale, because at some point you just find a bottleneck. Right?
It's health and sleep. That's what the podcast is. Yeah, health and sleep.
How to unsleep?
Health
And sleep.
Health and sleep. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's a great example. If you are an expert in storytelling, the macro topic is public speaking in this case. So what I want you to do now is to take a moment and think about what the topic of the show could be. Just think about this on your own. And then in the meanwhile, I'm going to prepare some breakout rooms because I have an exercise for you to do and some discussions in the breakout rooms. Okay, welcome back, beautiful people. What I would love to know is what kind of things have you discussed in the rooms? So if you come up with an angle that or a particular tone, Sean, I sent you a message on Facebook, on WhatsApp about what I'm thinking about your show. But if everyone wants to share what ideas you came up with, I'll love to know. Let them hear. Let them hear. Who wants to start? Okay, Caroline.
I'll start because I've been sort of toying with this for a long time, and it's about time I got my ass into gear and got this done. So my subject, my channel name is always going to be Shine Out Loud. So the Shine Out Loud show, and within that show, it's going to go across all sectors because I'm very interested in businesses across all sectors to help them grow, to help them have a voice. So to help them to shine out loud, and that's the purpose, to be seen and heard. So corporate professionals, entrepreneurs, coaches, creatives, spiritual coaches, well-being, tech, IT, manufacturers, all across all the sectors. And I loved what you were saying, what Lavelda did. I'd already made the notes about going into the different, we could have themes in different sectors, but I could also have the general of, look, let's just jump on and have a chat. Let us find out your story. Tell us a bit more about you. But I also, as some of the others have said, want to use my channel to promote what I'm doing. So I will have some solo shout outs, but I will do those more organically, or maybe like words of wisdom, or this is, you know, what are we going to talk about today? And then almost for the guests, create a guest wait list.
Okay, all right. So I can see that for you, the format of the story, what people can expect from you is more stories, like the stories of the guests, getting to know the guests, getting to know who they are. Because so now so what you want to do is to get your guests to shine, is to shine out loud. That's the message. And I think the way, with your voice, and the way you can link your message with also the client part is by saying, this is what I'm doing here. I'm helping this guest to shine out loud. If you want to shine out loud, then reach out to me. So then there is that link which makes sense for people. So even if the topic can be very broad, the theme of shining out loud is the same thing that you're working with your guests and your clients. I like that.
Thank you.
I like that. Good
I'm
thing.
excited.
Yeah, same here. All right, who wants to go next? Who wants to go next? All right, Shan, and then Clive.
I tried to wait there, guys, but I'm a keen bean. So that was brilliant. I've worked. No, Annalisa, go with Dad. Sorry, I have.
Hi, Annalisa.
Oh, don't say hello.
No, okay.
So
go with
it's
that.
called Her Pioneering Way: Empowered Female Innovators in the Green Tech Space.
Her Pioneering Way.
A podcast for empowered female innovators in the green tech space.
Okay. All right. So that's the name.
And the vibe, because I just had a little message from a nice Simone guy that I kind of know, right? I do challenge the status quo. I love the truth. I don't get like I go like that if I can't lie. I don't understand all of that stuff, right? So I was thinking of having like a hybrid kind of one where once a month I do a roundup of what the guests are, and I talk about them subjects and my understanding of them and my stories behind them. But then like every week, three weeks of the month is guests, and then the end of the month it's like round up with Sean, you know.
That works. That works really well as a format. I think what the message that I sent to Shan earlier, focusing on her personality and how she is. I know Shan is very inquisitive. She doesn't take any BS, and she's also willing to talk about topics that where people will shy away from. That, and she raised awareness of very sensitive topics, and she's always been like that since the moment I met her. And I think that using that style, I'm just gonna mute you, Shan, because I got quite a bit of background noise. And having that style that will suit her personality, because she will do it anyway, but will make it very interesting for the guest, because now I know that if I'm tuning in, I might hear something a bit controversial. I might hear something that people normally will not talk about. And if you're keeping true to that, that will make it also a very interesting show, not only to connect with potential partners, expand your network, but also for the listener as well. So all right. Well, Shan, we can come back. I think you're having some internet issues. I had Clive and then I have Dave. So Clive, what was the idea of your show?
Okay, I'd probably main head it military entrepreneurs, the transition from service to running a business or your own business, not quite sure. I think that probably encapsulate it as best I can for now.
I would just call it, in this case, military entrepreneurs. Okay. We're going to go into naming of podcasts. In fact, even going back to Shan when she's going to come back, that podcast name was very, very long. So actually, there is not actual space in the podcast platform to write those full sentences. But for example, ex-military entrepreneurs. This becomes a great way to now not only build the relationships with other organizations that could be potential organizations for you, that could be where you can have them as guests as they reach. You can explore topics, whether you're having solo episodes, talking about something that you have in your mind, to having other guests. So that will work really well. And ex-military entrepreneurs will be definitely worth checking if there is nothing already another podcast called in this way. But that will be that will definitely be a great point. So Shan, I was saying before you cut off, something that we are going to look at is also the name, because the title that you chose is incredibly long, and I think it's too long even for the podcasting platform to have in. So we're going to look at the podcast and the titles in a moment. That's going to be then the next the next part that we're going to do together. Dave, over to you.
So the name of my community that I'll be launching is Straight Talk Speakers, and that ties in. It's a easy name for the podcast.
Perfect.
And got that, the tagline and the whole bit. The essential plan is that I have so many connections in National Speakers Association that I could line up 30, 40, 50 guests without much difficulty, some of whom are Hall of Fame speakers and people who I've connected with. So I can borrow a lot of their credibility. And also they will then take those recordings and send them out to their mailing lists, which is good promotion for me. Something really worth thinking about. And one of the reasons I haven't done a podcast before, like I've got a friend who's a great guitar player, and he interviews guitar players on his YouTube channel. It's not a podcast, but same thing. And that's all well and good. He's interviewed some famous and semi-famous players and does these great interviews, but it doesn't really bring him any credibility he can use. And he's got a small following. It's not a money maker. So I think it's really like I've played guitar for 45 years. I could do a guitar podcast. It won't make me any money. I lived on sailboats for 15 years. I could do a sailing podcast, but there's no end zone. There's no goal for me. Doing the speakers thing with this community, with the idea of forming partnerships with other speakers who have communities of their own, and that whole cross-pollinating strategy, that's where this makes sense. And I think it's very important to distinguish between the things we're interested in and the things we're passionate about, and how much energy we're going to put into things that You know, how relevant is that to our business?
100%, 100%. And the answer to this question is it is a balance, because at the same time, for the longevity of the show, talking about things that you are interested in on a deep level is also important. And so that's why you can alternate. There might be episodes where there is just something that you want to talk about. You know that person is not going to be a potential partner. You know that person is not going to bring business, but damn is a person I want to ask a few questions to. And could be, and that's okay. Knowing that is a balance between all these other strategies. Maybe there is something that you come across and you want to do a solo episode. And that's okay too. The good thing about having a podcast is that you don't have to be married to a specific format. I think that there is this idea, if it's going to be interview, it's only going to be interview. If I'm doing a solo episodes, it's going to be only solo episodes. You can literally alternate and let people know. It's like sometimes there will be solo episodes, sometimes there will be interviews. So they know what to expect, and you have that freedom and that flexibility to then go from, ooh, this person, potential partner, let me get them as a guest, because you know that the aim is to have potential partnership there. Other person, ooh, I really connected really well, I just want to ask them a bunch of questions. Great. Ooh, I found maybe this thing that I want to talk about. Let me talk about it. So now you can create something that gives variety to the audience, and also you're not putting yourself in a box, in particular if you're not ready to commit to a particular format. So thank you, Dave. I love that we found the monetization part. Deborah, how about you?
Yeah, most of, well, all the people I've interviewed so far have been women, and I think it probably will be mainly women that I'm interviewing. And I sort of thinking, I think what it's about is like women who are entrepreneurs or who want to be entrepreneurs, and how they can just have more fun and make it more creative, the way they work.
Mm-hmm. Is your target audience the people, the ideal clients that you want to have, only women? So you're focusing on women as a target audience?
Well, it's not that my clients are only women, but they tend to be mostly women.
Mm-hmm. Because the topic of astrology is definitely a more feminine energy topic compared to a masculine energy topic. That makes sense. So this is up to you, because you know that the topic will naturally attract more women. But there are also some men that will be attracted to astrology, and it's the first time that I heard you talk in the time working together, that I heard you say, I'm only going to target women. Before, it was mainly about the topic. So I want to know if you know that, okay, I'm just going to work with women as ideal clients, that will make sense to do a women-only show. But
Right.
otherwise, I think
Okay.
you can keep it
Yeah.
more open and let the topic self-select people.
Yeah, I won't make it just women that I invite then.
Okay, that's because the first time that I hear you talking about this, and I'm like, okay, it's never been on your mind.
You're right. Yeah.
Okay. And so what I would love to know is, like, even for everyone, if you have any ideas on how you can make this conversation interesting, though, because that's not what I heard. What would be something that you can do with your show? And I don't know if you had chance to have this conversation in, but to create something different, to create something which is not usual as an interview. Or did you have a chance to talk about it or not?
I kind of feel by just being me and being that kind of inquisitive person, that I can ask them questions. Like you said, I'll say things that no people want to say, but they don't say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there are a couple of things. One is to understand like naturally what you're interested in and what can people expect from you. So for example, mine is generally a strategic podcast, because I'm someone that I love strategy. I love talking about strategy. It's very me. There is angles that I'm going to try in the future just to see how people respond. For example, a lot of strategic podcasts, what people are talking about strategies, but I'm going to do a series about why certain strategies don't work and what are the pitfalls of certain strategies, just to flip the script. and see what people, how people are going to respond, because everyone else is going in that direction. I want to try to say, okay, how can I use the same topic in the opposite direction? And then see how that could make the conversation interesting, to say, instead of saying, hey, tell me why email marketing works, tell me all the reason where email marketing doesn't work. And I want to see, because then people can provide those, can be aware of mistakes. That's an idea. I want to see if it works. Maybe it's gonna bomb. Who knows? We'll find out. But that's my invitation to you: is to experiment. Is to experiment and listen to other shows. See how can you do something unique. For example, Caroline, you are very passionate. Like, you're great with words and poetry. I would start every podcast episode with a little poem. That's very you. That will be very, very you, and will make it different. I'm listening to an MBA podcast because I like to listen just to switch my mind off. I listen to MBA podcast, and there is one host that writes a little rap, which is very badly written, by the way, for each guest that he has, and is part of the dynamic of the show. And that's what I know. Like, I'm literally sometimes tuning in and just listen to the first 5 minutes because I want to see how bad that rap of that show is. And that's something that will connect me on that. Dave, you have a passion for guitar and sailing. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know technically how it will work in terms of time wise, but starting with a little riff of guitar,
what I can do is, when guests are local, I can take them out on the boat and interview them there.
If you have a local guest, right?
Look, I've got story sailing, right? I mean, I've got that whole side wrapped up in other parts of it. It'll come in, but
exactly.
It's got to be strategic, or I'm just talking about myself.
Or you can have like a little segment when you are telling like a story about something that happened while you were sailing, short, like 2 minutes. And this is the segment of the story sailing.
Yeah.
But because how people are going to connect with you on podcast. That's why I love podcasting, because you are in people's ears for a long period of time. The connection is so strong because also people are having you in their ears over and over again for hours. Sometimes if they binge listen for hours and hours and hours, and having those moments that connect you with those. For example, one that I like is to share, for example, like a tool and a tech tip, because I love geeking out on different tools. And so when I start my show, I say, hey, this is the tool of the week that I'm sharing with you. And then I ask my guests to share the tool of the week. That's how we start the show immediately, straight away. Before we go into the content, what is a tool or a tip that you use that make your life or business better? This is mine this week. What is yours? And then we go into it, because that's something that I'm passionate about. Deborah, you could do like a little reading or talking about before the show. So
I just put it in.
There you go. Right. Clive, don't know you enough to give you an idea, but I don't know if you have something. You're a musician as well. So linking, I don't even know what it could be, but something linked to music.
Potentially, yeah. It's not a bad idea.
So that's what.
What do you think, then, Simone? Any ideas for me?
I think for you, like the inquisitive part. That's what I know. I don't know about other. I don't know if you want to do a pole dancing show as part of your your introduction. We don't know Shanna. She used to be a pole dancing instructor.
Yeah, I don't look as good as I used to in it, mate. You know.
That's the other thing that I know. Okay, that's the other thing I know about you. So I don't know if you want to start with a pole dancing story or other things that you might be that make you. That's doesn't come on the top of my mind other than what I just sent you on the message earlier. But that's what we're talking about podcasting when you're having your own show. These are the things that can make you, and it can make your show stand out, and then you can expand from those and experiment and experiment. Jimmy, I know you have you just came in the middle of a conversation. So when we're going to in a moment we're going to go in a break. So then I will give you a brief to get you up to speed. Okay. All right, that's brilliant, fantastic. Now the next, which is going to be the next part before we are going to break, is looking at the title of the show. And as you can see in our Padlet board, I mean in the worksheet on the Padlet board. And Jimmy, if you want to open the Padlet board, there is also a worksheet there. And if you want to get some ideas with the name, you can go in our good friend ChatGPT, or you can brainstorm some ideas. And what I want you to do is to give you a few minutes to brainstorm the name and support each other with the name. So I'm gonna send you back in a breakout room for about 10 minutes. You can use this prompt on using on ChatGPT. For example, the prompt is, I want to get ideas for great names for my new podcast. The target audience is, you put your target audience. The aim of my podcast is, you put the aim, which is what we discussed at the beginning. The overall topic is, you insert the topic. Please write 10 potential podcast names. So I tried it earlier. And I said, okay, what can come up? And this was a podcast. I said, my target audience is coaches and speakers. The aim of my podcast is to build my audience, get strategic partnership, and get people to be familiar with my topic. The overall topic is sales and marketing. Please write 10 potential podcast names. So they come up with some interesting name, Amplifying and Convert. Strategies for coaches and speakers. So you can see that the names are quite short and snappy. And even the subtitle is very short, because also you have restrictions on podcasting platforms on how long the title of the post should be, the title of the show should be, and also you have a restriction on the artwork. You know, if you have an artwork for the show, we're going to talk about the artwork in later. If you have a artwork for the show, you know, you cannot have the luxury to write a paragraph there. Speaker sales alchemy, marketing, mastering the market, podium profits, elevating your sales game, microphone and market, amplifying your impact, stage and strategy, sales wisdom for the spotlight, eloquent and earnings, the coach and speaker guide, spotlight sales mastery, voice and venture, turning talks into transaction, pitch and podium, sales synergy for professional, connect and capitalize, the marketing mantra for motivators. So these are some ideas. And the reason why I put 10 is because sometimes the right name, it could be just one. It can be uniting others. And if you are someone who's stuck with the naming and titles, they can help you out. If you're someone who's already naturally very creative with names, you don't even have to use the prompts. You can just use your brain and write it down and then check it with ChatGPT later. So it's up to you how you prefer to work. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms again. And I'm going to give you 10 minutes to brainstorm the name and help each other out with the names, which means if you already know the name of your show, then you're going to spend a bit more time to help other people there. If you don't know the name of your show, then work on your one. Generally, in 10 minutes, there will be 5 minutes per person in the different breakout rooms. Jimmy, you're going to stay with me here, so then I can give you a full brief while everyone else is back in the breakout rooms. So I'm going to open them up now.
You don't want us to use ChatGPT then?
No, you can use ChatGPT. What I said is you can use it, and the prompt is there. If you're already someone who naturally thinks is really good with words and you don't want to use it, you don't have to. So that's optional.
Could you put the link in for us, please?
Is in the worksheet.
I'm not being able to access that because I'm doing it on my phone.
Okay, so what do you want? The prompt?
There's just the ChatGPT link, please.
The prompt, the copy and paste, or do you need the link of ChatGPT?
Just the link, ChatGPT, please.
Okay, the link of ChatGPT.
Thank you.
There we go. And I'm gonna put it here. Okay. All right. The breakout rooms are opening now. Let's go. All right. Welcome back. We're going for a break. Hi, Caroline and Sean. I think there's something mischievous happening there. I'm never gonna send you in a room back together anymore. Just that. No, that room one is trouble. I'm gonna rename it as the trouble room. That's what I'm gonna rename it as. Moving on. What kind of names have you come up with? Let me hear some of the names, some of the ideas, and then we go for a break, and then after we're going to work in the launch strategies. Sean, let's go with you.
Okay, we worked hard. Caroline worked hard with me on this. Green tech pioneers, female founders.
Okay, that's good. Green tech pioneers, female founders. That's good. We can green tech pioneers, female founders. Green tech pioneers, female founders. Yeah, that works. It tells what it will attract the audience that is interested in green tech. It will attract the audience that is also interested to hear about female founders. There is going to be a predominantly, the moment you say female founders on the title, there's going to be a predominantly prominently women listening to the show. So then you will know open to that. But also means that you can build a stronger relationships, because a podcast with the title will create a sense of identity. If I get invited, it's almost like an ego stroke. If I'm invited to a podcast with that title, I'm assuming that only people that are pioneer in green tech, they will be there. So actually will increase the chances for someone to say yes, because it's almost like, oh, you chose me, you picked me, thank you. So I like it. Really good thinking. Clive, how about you? What do you come up with?
I think we didn't really get much past the ex-military entrepreneurs, to be fair. I had a good chat with Dave about it. I think he's of the same mind. A lot of good information from Dave there that I hadn't really thought about before. So,
All right.
Yeah, that's
Good.
where I am.
We got that one. Dave, yours, you mentioned before, let's say it again.
Yeah, mine is Straight Talk Speakers Podcast.
Pardon?
It's the Straight Talk Speakers Podcast.
The Straight Talk Speakers Podcast. Awesome. Perfect. A little tip as well. Put in the title with and then your name. That's going to be part of that. So Straight Talk Speaker Podcast with Dave Bricker. Green Tech Pioneers with Sean Young. Ex-military entrepreneurs with Clive Rack. The reason why is because podcasting platform, they operate in the same way of SEOs. So if someone actually writes your name online, your podcast then will appear. Because sometimes if I want to listen to someone in particular and I'm following them, I write their name on whether it's Apple Podcast or Spotify, whatever is the platform they use, and then everything else that they have with their name will come up. So make sure you put your name.
Yeah, and that's such good advice, because for me, I've always loved being the sideman. I've always been the person who likes to coach somebody to win the speaking contest or whatever it is. And I don't need to have that win or be out in front of people, but I've realized, like, if you're going to build a community or a podcast or whatever it is, they'll find you with a keyword, but they'll stay with you because of you. They're buying
100%.
you, and this is my big challenge to myself right now, is to step out and be that leader, because I've always it's not something my ego needs.
Yeah,
but that's what people are buying is you.
Exactly.
Not your data.
100%. Thank you, Dave, and make sure the name is there.
Yeah.
All right, Caroline, how about yours? Let's say it again, because I'm just gonna go around.
I've just got the giggles. The Shine Out Loud Show with Caroline Sylvia Ragg.
Awesome. Deborah? What's the name of your show?
I like Soulpreneur, but I'm not sure on sessions or strategies with Dr. Deborah Moore.
Okay. Soulpreneur.
SOUL.
Yes, Soulpreneur strategies or Soulpreneur sessions. Ooh. Ooh. What do you want to communicate with them?
I am teaching. It is about teaching.
Yeah, but what do you want to communicate with on the title on the podcast title? What is your sense of the show? Just give me an idea.
Well, sessions is about the conversation. It's dropping in on a nice, friendly conversation. Strategies would describe what we're actually giving in the conversation.
Mm-hmm. I think there is a better word for this.
Okay.
I think and you said that you've already started a podcast. Is that the current name?
I haven't got a name yet.
He hasn't got a name, so you just I love you so much. You just thought that's the perfect thing. Is like, okay, I'm gonna get it done. The name is gonna come. Love it, love it, love it, love it. I'm gonna sit with it, and then if someone actually has some suggestions as well for Deborah.
No, it's not about astrology. Astrology might come into it, but it's about creativity. So I don't really want to put astrology.
So it's about creativity for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Spotlight. Soulpreneur Spotlight.
Soulpreneur Spotlight.
I'm just thinking of another one with two S's.
Okay, Soulpreneur Spotlight.
Thank you.
Possibility.
Okay, let's keep we're getting there. We're getting there is something else. I think there is something else. All right, Andrea, how about yours?
I thought ChatGPT came up with some really lousy names, but I might stick with my newsletter title, which is on leading well.
Mm-hmm. Leading well with Andrew
on leading well, because it's leadership. It's leadership and well-being is what I
love it. That's an incredible title. I will check that it's not been taken yet.
Yeah, I haven't checked it.
Do a Google search and put on Living Well podcast, and then see if anything comes up.
Okay.
Joanne, remind me yours.
Empowering Family Health with Joanne Callahan.
Okay, that's perfect. So time for a break now. When we're coming back, we're going to go and start a launch or relaunch for those of you that already have a podcast strategy, which is exactly the same, depending if you're launching or relaunching. And then I'm going to get you to plan your first 10 episodes. We're going to talk about the very basics of tech to use. And then we're going to answer a few questions for becoming a guest on other podcasts. So that's what you can expect. 15 minutes break. Let's get back at the top. Actually, let's do 10 minutes. 10 minutes break. Let's get back at 5 to the hour. That's when we are back. Okie dokie. See you in a bit. Ciao. To continue with our podcasting quest that we are doing today. So you all have an idea about your title, where you're going, what the structure will be. I want to go back. I invite you to get back to the worksheet, because there is something that I want to show you before I send you back in breakout rooms to work with a partner on this. Because what you're going to do is now to plan your first 10 episodes. So we're going to go into the launch strategy in a moment. Now, what I have here, I gave you an idea. You can see in guest, give you an idea about the different type of podcasts that you can do. So you can have solo episodes. You can have guests that can be ideal partners. And also you can interview clients on your show. Now, every single episode type will achieve a different outcome. And depending on the guest or the format that you decide to do, you will be able to achieve a specific outcome. For example, if we do a solo episode, let's focus on solo episode. What outcome do you think you're going to achieve with that particular show? Let me know in the chat. If you're doing a solo episode, no, sorry, unmute yourself, not in the chat. If you're doing a solo episode, what outcome are you going to achieve? What would that do for you?
I think my personality would shine because I would review the experts that had come on my show, and then that would build a relationship with me, because part of the aim of this is to sell my own personal coaching packages.
There you go. Exactly. So exactly as Sean said, when you do a solo episode, you know that what you're going to create is a stronger connection with you as an expert in your field with your audience. Because what happens if you're only doing interviews with guests, people are going to put you in the box of the host. And when you're the host, you're asking questions. Sometimes you will chime in, but your role as a host is not to steal the limelight. And I've been on podcasts where actually it felt like it was a tug of war with the host. I felt like, why am I even here? Like, do you want to interview me, or do you just want to get your point across? Because a great host is that the only role of a great host is get their guest to shine. And if the guest shines and you have a great conversation with them, and of course you can express your ideas, but it's about how much percentage of the time you speak compared to the ones that they speak. And ideally, they got to speak 80%, you got to speak 20%. Right? So, but when you're doing a solo episode, now you can express your thoughts and ideas on your topic. And so now someone will understand and create a connection that you are an expert in your field. So that's why solo episodes are important. Now, let's say that you have a guest, someone who is someone that you look up to, or someone well known in the industry as a guest. What outcome are you going to achieve with that particular episode? Someone else.
I think it is also raising your profile, but it's also giving you that extra influential opportunity for bringing somebody in, either outside of your industry or from a connected industry that is going to talk about that. So it can create partnerships.
So it is credibility. So if you're having another guest who is well known in your industry, the outcome here is credibility, increased credibility, and extending your reach, because now you're also going to be accessing their audience if they share it. Deborah, do you want to add something on this?
I was going to say the same thing, Simone, that you get to be shared out with their audience.
Exactly. Absolutely. Now, let's say that you have an idea. I mean, I'm going to give you, we already talked a lot about this. If you have a potential partner as a guest, someone that you have identified as a potential partner, the outcome here is to create partnership. So now the aim of that interview is to build a relationship. Then at the end of the interview, ask them, say, hey, I'm doing this, is what I'm focusing on, this is what I'm doing. Do you think this would be relevant either for someone that you know or for your audience? And so if your aim is to create a partnership and you have targeted them as a potential partner, you know that the interview is mainly to build a relationship with that person. And then the partnership conversation will happen after the interview. That's why when you're scheduling your time with your guests, something really important is to always leave longer time of conversation. So for example, my podcasting recording time is about half an hour, but I leave 1 hour in the calendar. A bit of topping and tailing. Then there will be about half an hour, 20, 25 minutes, half an hour of interview, which leaves me another 20 minutes, 25 minutes to actually have a further conversation with them, and is scheduled in their calendar. So now they know that they blocked it, they blocked that time, and I know that we have that space for a conversation and they don't need to rush off. Or if we feel that we don't gel and I'll think, okay, actually this is not going to be a good partner, I'm just going to say, okay, great interview, thank you very much. I'll let you know when the episode is published. Bye. I mean, not the buy in that sense, but I will not do the buy in that way, but you get the gist. You get the gist. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, you're talking about the interviews, and it's so important because I've been on a bunch of podcasts. I find most of the hosts are terrible interviewers. They don't have that experience, and they ask you a bunch of questions that may or may not be on target. What I did is I created a list of questions that they're not required to ask me, but having that list I have a media page for a For Media Hosts page. They can download a list of questions. And what happens is 90% of the time they go right down the list of questions. I get asked what I want to be asked in the right order. I don't have to say, well, you're asking this, but first you have to understand this. I mean, I know what's coming. They love it. I get compliments on it. And as a host, I think sending people questions in advance, even if it's a standard set of questions, and saying, is there anything you'd like to be asked? There are ways to prepare for those conversations that make the interviews much better than sitting down with a stranger and hoping you land on the right topic.
100%, 100%. We're going to talk about this and it will be great actually later when we get to that point. If you can share as well the sheet that you send, so then some people can have an example. I'll put mine as well, so then you can have an example. But we're going to talk about this later when we go into how to be a guest on other shows. Now let's look at the scenario, which is there. If you're interviewing a client, because there is another option to actually using your podcast to do some interviews with your clients. What will that do for you? What do you think will be the outcome? Someone has not told yet. Andrea, let me check with you. If you interview a client, one of your clients on the show, what would that do for your episode, for your show?
It just provides respectability. It's like a live testimonial, in terms of work.
100%. So if you're using your podcast to also promote your services, interviewing clients is one of the best indirect ways to do that. Because now people see that you're a client. You can explore some of the work that they've done together. You can explore some of the results that they had, and almost like do a live case study interview that will be relevant for their audience with lesson and action points, but also testament of your work. And so for someone who is on the fence, maybe they've been listening for a while, or they want to have a better idea of the work that you do, those kind of podcasts are important.
I would think it would be difficult though to get my clients to do that.
Thank you for mentioning that, because not everyone will do it, depending on the topic, depending on how sensitive it is. So that's why it is an option for some people to do it, or other times you will just have your solo episodes and you will have your guest. So this is just another option if it's possible to do it. And some will agree. But for example, I've got another client that she works in the cancer space. In her podcast, a lot of people don't want to come out saying what they had to go through, and unless they maybe already more public figures, but otherwise they leave it in a personal way. Now, in terms of what we're going to do next, now that we have this idea, the launch strategy, which I'm gonna ask you to start creating right now, is that at every launch, when you create something, just 1 second, let me close my window because a typhoon has started arriving here with rain and so I got started rain. The rain was started coming inside. Good old London weather coming from nothing. When you're launching a podcast, this is really important. Or even if you are relaunching it, what you want to do is to have at least 7 to 10 episodes already pre-recorded before you launch it. 7 to 10 episodes. The reason why, when you listen to a podcast, and maybe you've done this yourself, you find a podcast that you like, and if you like it, what you're looking for is the next episode straight away. So you start binge listening. Now, if it is your first episode and someone that you start promoting and say, great, today I'm doing this, we are launching the show, they like the first episode, they see there is nothing more, it will be more difficult to build that relationship with your audience and the habit of listening. So what you want to have is almost like a Netflix series or an Amazon Prime series. When you're launching or relaunching, having 7 to 10 episodes already pre-scheduled, you publish them all at the same time in one go, and then every day you promote one that are already published. Every day you promote it. Every day you promote next one. The day after you promote the next one. So now they can find the first, or they can find the second. They go in, there is already 7 or 10. That will mean that now I can build a connection with you. If I want to binge, I can binge. I've got more choice. And also it creates a habit of me going back to the podcast, because now that I have 7 or 10 to listen to, I don't have to wait another week for my next one. I can listen the day after. I can listen a couple of days after. And then you can go into your natural release schedule, whether you decide it's going to be once a week or once every 2 weeks. That's my recommendation is to have at least, like if you want to do this, once a week. Because that also creates content for you. Now, you can decide you want to record them all at the same time. You record them as you go, week by week. That's up to you. That's up to your style. I prefer to have at least 2 or 3 episodes already recorded before I have to publish next one. So I want to be 2-3 episodes ahead, because if something happens that week, then maybe I need to reschedule the recording. I can't record. I can't make it happen. Then I've got a backup episode to put out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you into breakout rooms now. And in your breakout rooms, you're going to discuss and you're going to identify what these 10 episodes could be. 7 to 10 that you can publish. And you can decide how you want to run your first 7 to 10 episodes. Do you want them to be just 7 to 10 solo episodes just to get it started because it's going to be easier for you? Start in that way. Do you already have, you want to have a mixture of solo, partners, guests, like I suggested? You can do that too. Do you just want them to be guests? You can decide that part too. So that's going to be up to you. What's going to be easier for you to get things going and get things started. And then you can always alternate, knowing that you're going to use your show for all these different reasons. But what I'm going to ask you is to have 10 different, to plan the first 7 to 10 different episodes. So whether you have a guest in mind and a topic you can discuss with that guest, or something that you can do on a solo episode. Does anyone have any question before I send you into your breakout rooms?
I don't have a question. I just want to say, Simone, man, you just make me work when I get here, eh?
Welcome back. Gonna say, you know, welcome back. That's why it's called implementation days, because we get stuff done and we love.
I love it though. Let's get this done.
Let's get it started. Okay, so let me. Okay, I'm gonna open the breakout rooms and I will see you in a bit. Actually, no, let me close the breakout room. Ha 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 ha. Close our rooms. To hear from you, give me if you have done, give me a thumbs up on the screen if you have all your 7 to 10 episode planned. Give me a thumbs middle if you are halfway through and you're making progress. Give me a thumbs down if you've done absolutely nothing about it. So then I have an idea where you are. So who is a thumbs up? Thumbs up on? Okay, so we got, keep your thumbs up on. So we have Dave, we have Andrea, and we have Clive. And also we have Jim and Joanne. Okay, thumbs middle. Who is the thumbs middle? We have Caroline and Sean, a thumbs middle. Were you in the same group together? Do you get distracted talking too much? No? Are you sure?
We were inspired by each other.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, and then thumbs down. Anyone thumbs down? All right. That's good. So make sure you finish your planning, Caroline and Sean, in this case, of what these episodes will look like. What I wanted to show you before we move on the tech side is I added on the worksheet a few more options. For example, what a format could look like if you're doing an interview or a solo episode, which is around 30 minutes. Now, even if you're doing a solo episode, which is 10 minutes or 15 minutes, it will follow a similar structure where you have the first part, which is the introduction. In the introduction, you're introducing the topic. You're introducing if you're having a guest, is about their background. So it's literally to set the scene. That's what you want to do, to set the scene of the conversation. If you're interviewing a guest about helping them, getting them to ask questions about them, how do they get to do what they do? How did they get to find out what they found out, which will position the topic. In this way, what you're doing is positioning to people why they should listen to the guest. If it is you, for example, you're doing a solo episode, you're doing the same. So imagine when you're doing, in the webinar training, we talk about starting the webinar with why they should listen to the topic and why they should listen to you and why it's important right now. This is a very similar concept. This is a very similar concept. This is what people need in order to pay attention to the rest. Then you can deep dive into the conversation. That's for about 20 minutes if you're using the 30 minutes format. And then you wrap up, you're doing a final recap of what has been discussed, and then you deliver a final message with a final call to action. Whether it's a final call to action for the guest, in this case, maybe to sign up for something that they have or check out their website or their social media, and also something that you might have as well. So this is a rough structure. Of course, if you have been doing interviews for a while or you have something different in mind, use something different. You don't have to stick to this one. But if you don't know where to start, this gives you a good starting point and a good checklist in terms of timing. There is something else, though, that let's say either you don't have time or is your preferred media to do what we call a micro podcast. In particular, for solo episodes, work really well, which is only a 5 minutes episode. You press record, 5 minutes on a topic, boom, next. And this will really be helpful if you are either running out of time or don't have many ideas, or maybe you're not used, you want to do a solo episode and maybe you're not used yet to talk for 20 minutes, half an hour about your topic on your own. No, it is quite a skill to get there. So if you're not used to that, then you can use the 5 minutes. And I love the 5 minutes. There are podcasts that are literally solo episodes for 5 minutes and they are released every day. There is literally entire podcasts like this, which is micro segment on one topic. That's why there is no real rule about what a podcast should be, should do, how long. Literally, you can go, I've seen episodes which is like micro podcasts or 2 minutes episodes as well. And the entire series is 2 minutes micro episodes like this. So that's another way of using it, that you can adapt and you can adjust as well. Now we are going to go into the tech side now, because I know that we have questions about tech. What do I use? What I don't use? Depending on the level that we have in this group, I want to go through what you have here. So if you are a beginner, in terms of recording, you can use Zoom. Zoom works well. You got the audio recording quality is good enough. It's not the best one for the audio side, but it's good enough for a podcast. So I've been doing hundreds of episodes just recording it on Zoom. If you want to invest a bit more, then you can use StreamYard. I really like StreamYard as a platform because not only you can do recordings, but also it allows you to do live streams on different social media platforms. So you could live stream on 3-4 platforms at the same time without any integration. So StreamYard is a platform that I use. I love it. And there is my affiliate link there if you want to check it out. I think it's about, the starting price is like $7 a month, going to $25 a month, something like this. But you don't want to invest and you want to start in the simplest way, start with Zoom. If you want lights, I've put this, so lighting is going to be really important, in particular if you want to record in the evening. Now, right now, I've got my lights on. If I turn them off, you'll see a big difference. So, lighting is important. If you already have lights, great. If you don't have them, and also you want to have a powerful light on the road, I put this option here. This is the one that I use when I'm not here at home in the studio. Is 24 pounds, which is about $30. It is incredibly powerful, very powerful. It lasts 6-7 hours, and you can clip it on top of your laptop. You can, is a USB charge. You can clip it on your phone as well. what I like is the versatility of it, because I used to, if I'm recording on the road as I travel a lot, I was carrying with me like a ring light this big. I did some research and found this one really, really good for use at home, but in particular if you're on the road. What I also put as a camera, this is the camera that I'm using. If you don't have a camera, then this one is an oldie but goodie. It is a classic, the Logitech C920 HD Pro. I had this camera for 5 years. It's still one of the top cameras that there are out there for this price point. And is one with the biggest longevity as well. So you can use you can have this one, and it's about £70, which is about $80 if you want to have it. Microphone is really important, because the quality of the audio, in particular for a podcast, which if people are watching it on YouTube, because my recommendation is to do a video podcast where you're recording the video, you put the video on YouTube and you put the audio on the podcasting platform, so you can expand your reach as well. The audio is going to be really important. So I'm actually using this microphone. This microphone is a fairly inexpensive. I found it and it's really good to travel with. It is about 34 pounds, which is about $40. And I used to have a microphone before, which was about $200, which was the Rode Podcaster. And I swapped it because the audio quality is very similar. And this one, if you are having it a bit closer to your mouth, the quality of the audio is strong. Really, really good. Now, I found something else as well. So I found something else that I added here. This has been a new purchase. And it is a pair of headphones. This is just a normal pair of headphones, which is not Bluetooth, so it's line in, like you will of earbuds. But I did a lot of research because I was looking for a pair of headphones with a great microphone, which is designed to take calls, to do training, and I've tested a few. This one is incredibly cheap because it's like $15, about 12 pounds, 13 pounds. But the quality of the microphone is as good, if not better, than this microphone. It's insane. I have them with me. I can put them on. My laptop is on a different part, so I will have to disappear for a bit. But this, in particular, if you're using podcast and you don't want to have like a microphone with you, but you have these earphones, put them in. The quality of the audio is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Now, of course, if you already have other solutions, something that you have used, something that you already have because you've already bought it, and it's good enough, stick with what you have. You don't need to buy things that you don't need. But going into a podcast, the quality of the video and the quality of the audio, so not using your laptop camera, not using the normal microphone of the laptop is a must. It's not a nice to have, it is a must. The other thing is to make sure that your camera is going to be eye level. So if you're recording them on your laptop, make sure that you're positioning your camera at eye level. Whether you have a stand to help you lift the laptop, whether you did what I did for many years, putting like some books underneath and putting your laptop on top, whatever you're using, people are not going to see it. The most important thing, you get eye level there. And I'm going to go in a moment on distribution platform. I see that there are some shares or some questions. So Shan, I'm going to take yours.
Just a question on the camera.
Yes.
Maybe my mind doesn't understand it, but we're using virtual backgrounds. So you can use that camera connected to your laptop and use the virtual background.
100%. It doesn't make a difference.
By using Zoom or StreamYard?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It doesn't make a difference. It will make your virtual background look better, because the quality of the quality of the image is much better on the camera. Any Dave?
Yeah, just a lot of people use virtual backgrounds, but unless you've got lights and a green screen, they're iffy, and we see people's faces disappearing and their hair and their hands. So I think, like, if you're going to present yourself as a professional podcaster, either get a physical vinyl background whether it's the brick wall or whatever, a printed background, or like I've got my bookcase kind of dressed up to be my background because I'm on screen a lot, or get a green screen and do it digitally, but do it with the lights and everything, because it just, you've got to look better than your audience.
Yeah, this is a really good point, and I want to also say that it also depends on the space where you're in, because for example, I used to live in a small 1-bedroom flat in London, and there was no space either for a virtual background, and I had no space for the green screen until I moved house. And the perfection is always the killer of dreams. So ideally, if you want to use a virtual background, Dave is correct. In fact, I'm like, this is my real background. I have a green screen, and you can see the difference. Like, for example, this is how the image looks without a green screen, and this is if I enable the green screen.
Yeah.
So it's much clearer, it's much crisper. Sean has it, exactly. So, but if you don't have it, and also you don't have a background or the place in your room, you can start with a virtual background and then upgrade from there. So perfection is always the killer of dreams.
And as a traveler, as a, you know, and no, I want to wander the world. So what would you recommend as a kit that basically is EasyJet? Stick it on.
I would, I generally, if I travel, I either do my best to have pre-recorded episodes before, or depending on where I am, I find a place in the accommodation where I am to where I have either a white wall behind me, or I find an angle that I can use without the green screen. So I would rather use a natural background when I'm traveling than anything else, and having the light in front of my face. Now, I want to go to distribution. How do we distribute the podcast? How do we record, and how do we distribute the podcast? Now, there is a platform that I will recommend, which is free for everyone that doesn't have a show yet, which is called, it used to be called Anchor. Now is Spotify, how is it called? Podcaster Spotify. This is how it's called, Podcaster Spotify. It used to be Anchor. If you still click on this link, it will direct you to it will redirect you to the new, because Anchor has been acquired recently by Spotify, and that's why they change it, and that's why they changed their name. Now, the reason why I love Anchor is for a few reasons. One is free, the second one is free, the third one is free, the fourth one is free, and the fifth one is free. So these are the 5 reasons why I love it. But also I love it because it makes it incredibly easy to distribute your content. For example, I'm here on my show. I can click on new episode. Literally, you take an audio file that you have. Let's say you record on Zoom. You take the Zoom audio file of the recording. If you want, you can also update the video file, because on Spotify, you can have video podcasts, but generally here, I will upload an audio file. I'll take an audio file, I'll upload it. You write the title, and then you publish. Is automatically published. The other reason why I love Anchor, it is because also when you're setting up your podcast, the tutorial is incredibly clear and very easy to follow, even if you have never used a podcast platform before, and it will automatically distribute your podcast to Apple Podcast, to Spotify, to Stitcher, to Google Play, all the different podcasting platforms. So every single podcasting platform, Anchor does it automatically, has this integration automatically every time you start a show. Like when you create your show, that will be part of it. So you just need to select everywhere, and then Anchor will take a couple of days from the moment you create it to the moment the podcast will be available. So it will take about a couple of days, and then it will be available in every single other platform. That's why I love this platform, and that's why it's so easy. We have done a tutorial. I think this tutorial is, it was before Anchor was acquired. It's still very similar the way you set up, on how to set it up. So Wenger recorded it. And also I have resources on creating your podcast art, because for example, your podcast art needs to be a certain size. So what we did, we have created a Canva template where you can create your podcast cover. as well. So that's on Canva. And also if you go on Canva and you type podcast cover, it will already give you different options on which are already pre-done, which are really good that you can edit and you can use. And I would make it as easy as possible for everyone to publish it, because you can go down the production rabbit hole here when you're creating your podcast, which means editing of the show, if you have the editing of the audio, how it sounds. If you're not expert at that and you have a tight budget, the audio file that you get, whether it's from Zoom or StreamYard, most of the time is good enough to just be uploaded directly. What you need to remember, if you do that, is to start the interview when you press recording, and that's when you start, and then stop it when you finish. So then you can just take the file and put it up there without any editing. Now, if you want to play around a bit more, or you want to add, for example, like the introduction music, you want to add an outro, then either you're doing it yourself or you can get some help on places like Fiverr, where for $10, $15, they will edit the entire episode, they will clean it up, they will add the intro music and outro music, but your cost will be about $10 to $15 to $20 per episode that you publish. So I personally don't do that. I take it and I publish, and that's it. Then you can always grow and you can always make things better as you go along. But the most important thing, if you start a show, you press recording and say, hey, welcome to the show. This is what the show is for. This is what we're talking about today. Let's get straight into it. Most of the time is good enough, in particular when you're starting. And there are a lot of big shows that don't have an introduction music, they don't have any outro. They just start like this. So don't feel that you must have it. It's a nice touch, yes, but don't let that stop, because I've known people that have done podcast mastery before and they said, oh, I've not found a good intro music, and that's why I've not started my podcast. And I'm like, come on, really? Like, are you getting hung up on that? Let's get the show on the road. This is the most important thing. Any question on the tech side before we move on the becoming a guest, which is going to be the final part on this? Caroline?
Just on how that integrates with YouTube.
Now, on YouTube, it will not integrate automatically, but what you do, you take the video and then you upload it on YouTube.
Okay, so you do it
whenever, yeah, exactly. So whenever I record an episode, let's say that you use Zoom or StreamYard, both of them, they will give you the audio file and the video file. Okay. So I take the video file, I upload it on YouTube. I take the audio file, we upload it on Spotify for podcasts like Anchor, and then publish it. If you get stuck on this and you need help into understanding the first few episodes, I'm putting Wang available. Wang has been doing this for years with us. So if you're stuck on something and you say, hey, Wang, can I get 10 minutes and help me out understand what I'm doing here? Then let me know. And then I will make sure that Wang will give you some time to help you out on the setup.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I know that there are a few questions. So Dave suggested Riverside FM. This was a tool that I used to use. I moved from Riverside to StreamYard, and the reason why is because I found that Riverside doesn't give me the option to use a virtual background. And I've been contacting, because I used Riverside for about a year. I really like the software. Sometimes it would crash. It happened twice that crashed if I used an external camera with the virtual background integrated on it, because it was too much. Like it would, at some point, it would just cut off the interview. And because all my interviews I'm using this virtual background most of the time, I decided not to use it, to move to StreamYard. That gives you the option for virtual backgrounds. But otherwise, if you don't plan to use virtual background, Riverside is also a really good option. Joanne?
Yeah, I used Riverside for a while as well. And the reason why I was using it was because when you're recording, it records locally as opposed to over the internet. So say if the internet broke up, you lost connection or whatever, it's recording it locally. Do you get me? And that's That's what I loved about it. Does StreamYard do that, or is
Yeah, now StreamYard does that too. That's why I moved to StreamYard,
Oh.
because what StreamYard will do, it will be local recordings as well. So it will record locally on your laptop and then upload it and record it on my laptop. Now everyone is stuck or doesn't know what local recording is. It means that it is not relying, that basically the system is actually downloading the recording of your voice on your laptop and then uploading it back, which means it's more stable and the quality of the audio is more reliable compared to being just, for example, on Zoom, where all the recording and the sound is on the cloud. That's mainly the reason, the difference. But that's why I moved to Riverside. Sorry, to StreamYard. Okay. All right. Yeah, Riverside is very popular. Riverside is very popular. For me, was the choice, the main reason why it couldn't give me the option to use the virtual background. And for me, it was important, was really important. So that's why I moved away.
And I use Camera Switcher for that. I have a A10 Mini Pro for that. So that's probably beyond what you want to waste time on today.
Exactly.
But
yes.
Yeah,
Yes, because
but-
you know what, otherwise a lot of people will be confused and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
yeah.
So that's why I wanted to avoid this conversation, make it as simple as possible. And then
That's
for
fine.
anyone
But
who's a
that
tech
takes care of the
fanatic,
virtual background, and it's the same image on any platform, which I also like.
all right,
But it's a
awesome.
whole other level of tech than
It's
most
an
people-
all other level of tech that for people that are passionate about it and they like to geek
Yeah.
out on this kind of things is great. For others, it becomes a lot of unnecessary buffing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Simone, just
yes.
quickly, I shared an app called video.ai,
Mhm.
and basically you can upload a 20-minute video and it cuts it into Instagram shorts for you.
Yep. That's a really good one.
And that takes time away.
Yes.
Yeah, Pictory does that, and there's another one that's, I can't remember. Some of these new AIs that chop up your videos and mash them up, and
yeah. I
Get
have
Muncher,
one.
another one. Get Muncher.
There are so many video is really good. But first of all, let's just get started with publishing the podcast, and then we can go into the tools of editing. It will come to me. The tool that I use is similar to video. And again, what I like about it is that you upload the video there and it automatically cuts it in vertical or square. Is a good one. I need to find out, and I'll add it on the document. I'll add it on the document as well. Any other question on the tech side before we move on the final part, which is going to be answering question about being a guest on show?
Could you just put the Padlet link back in, please?
Of course. Right. That's the Padlet link, and now I'm getting a hang up with the tool I'm sharing for the cutting. So frustrating, it's not coming to me. Okay, it'll come to me in a moment. Let's go with the final part, because we have the last 7 minutes. And what I would love you to do actually is for everyone to commit right now, before we move actually to the next part, to a date where you're going to be ready to launch your show, which means that you are going to have your 7 to 10 episodes already recorded and ready to launch, so then we can keep you accountable. I want you to put down, to look at, see where you are right now, and put a date for when the show is going to be launched. Now, if it is not any priority for you, and you came to this course just to have an idea about what you could do on it, then maybe you can just put a month in the future if you don't have a specific date. But if podcast, launching your podcast was a priority, I want a date from you, a specific date. Okay, Dave, March 2024. Thank you, John. It's Opus. And even my affiliate link. You are a superstar. That's the tool that I use. Opus. Already with my affiliate link. John, you won a lot of brownie points here with this one. Opus. I love Opus. Love Opus. Okay, in the meanwhile, just put your date or month that you're going to publish your show. So April 24 from Clive, May 2024 from Andrea. What else? Deborah, we need a date. Because in your case, it's going to be a relaunch. It's going to be a relaunch if you're
sorry. I was just looking at where the moon's. I was trying to find a specific day. December.
Okay, and then you can put it there. That perfect. Okay, let's go here. Anyone else? Anyone else? Just logging in so I can show you Opus as well. There we go. So I'm gonna show you right now, 7th of March 2024, October 2023. Okay, we're already in October 2023, Joanne. Which date of October? Because it's already here. We are already in October. 2 weeks. Fabulous. So what Joanne put a link, I'm gonna put it also in the document. I'm gonna add it there. Is the tool that I use for repurposing clips. I really like this one for the simplicity and also the price point, which I found it to be more affordable than others and great quality. You can upload the full video, and then from each video that you have, it will create clips, and what it will give you also is a score on the clips, because what it will do, it will take moments that are going to be good on their own as a clip. You can decide how long you want these clips to be, and then it will give you what is called the virality score, the viral score, which means how likely are they good to either go viral or to be good clips on their own. And then the further down you go, it means that that clip is good, but less. So any score which is about higher than 80, you find that there is no changes that you need to make on that clip. Really, really good. Really, really good on its own. So that's Opus. That's the one that I use. And I think that for if you pay in full for the year, which I did, it was about like $100 something for the year. And it gives you more than 38 hours of recording that you can put there. So is a lot of them, and you can use for solo episodes. You can use it for recordings, for interviews. I love Opus, but also the other ones that were suggested, they're good as well. So I think it becomes more of preference of doing some free trial, testing them out, and then see how you can use to repurpose the short vertical clips of the show. But again, this is something that can come later. Like if this has become, oh my God, it's too much, just launch the show. You still have the videos, you can do them later. You can do this step later. Now, to wrap up, what I would love to know is, what I would love to discuss is about how to get featured on other shows and becoming a guest. And this is a conversation that I would love to have here together. So if anyone knows already, if you've been a guest on other shows, what has worked for you to be invited on other shows? What has worked for you to be invited on other shows? Dave.
Podmatch and some of those others. There's plenty of sites out there that match guests and hosts. Just go out, find the host, and kick some ass. ASK.
There you go. So there are different platforms. The one that Dave recommended is Podmatch, and I think is that you can create a free profile, right? It's not paid, and you have a free profile there. Can you put the link, Dave, please, of Podmatch in the chat, so then people can...
let me double check it and I'll post it.
I've had mixed results with Podmatch.
Okay. So it means
Yeah,
that you
I've had some
interviews
weird
and-
requests.
What kind of weird requests?
Just like, my profile, and some old dude wants to talk to me about something nothing to do with my business.
Okay.
So I kind of just stopped going to Podmatch.
It was that recurring or was that a one?
No, that was one off. And there was another guy as well wanted me to be on his show, and it was absolutely nothing to do with what was my profile and what I said I talked about,
And were you did it also happen when you reached out?
No, I've never really
Okay.
reached out.
Right. So to
Yeah.
avoid those kind of things, I mean, this is the first time that I hear something like this. But normally, what you can do is actually check the shows that are on Podmatch, and literally pitch them. And that's what can really work. So you have Podmatch. I used as well. I use Matchmaker.fm. So these are some good tools to get things going, because people that are there are always looking for guests. So you always have a show that you can also do your due diligence and check what the show is like. What else? If you have been a guest on a podcast, what else?
Personal. Oh, sorry, Caroline.
It's okay. Do you want to finish? I'll go next.
Okay. Personal connections, and the stuff you gave us when we done Profile Builder.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? That
The
one that
podcast
you
directory?
No, that it's actually a newspaper. Not a newspaper, they send you a ton of emails.
Alphareporter.com.
That's the one.
Okay. Yeah. That's a resource. Caroline?
I was just going to say, yes, I've been invited onto a few podcasts. Obviously, with yourself, GTeX, being part of the community. I've been invited by clients to be on their podcasts, which is great. And through other networking establishments, I remember somebody who was working for the FSB at one time invited me. He was running podcast shows, and I went on his podcast show. So yeah, they've been very organic. They haven't been sort of structured, or I haven't gone specifically out of my way to be featured on the podcast, but I certainly will be using that as part of my strategy moving forwards.
Awesome. Yeah, so one of the strategies here is looking at your network. Who do you know in your network that already runs a podcast? And one of the ways to find out is to put a post. Put a post on your social media platform. Say, hey, who in my network here has a podcast? Don't say anything else. That's it. Who in my network has a podcast? If I have a podcast, say, hey, I have a podcast. Why are you asking? And then you can see if it's relevant for you. And then you can already see in your network who are the people that are already connected to you. That is going to be an easy yes. So if you have not done that yet, this is going to be the first task for you to do. Dave.
Just be careful. There's a scam out there where they contact you and they say, well, we have this big podcast and we have 20 million listeners and we were referred to you. We'd like to be on the show. We'll do like 5 minutes or something. So they give you a little prep. You come on the show and then they call you in the afternoon or the next day. They say, you blew our ratings off the chart. We got excellent. We'd love to have you come on and do a full half hour or whatever. And that's only so many dollars, but the exposure you're going to get is fantastic. So avoid those pay-to-play scams.
Yes. What Dave said, 100%. Joanne.
That's interesting, Dave, because I was on a podcast. Someone, she charges $400, and but she happened to be on mine first, and so we done a swap. I got on her. I didn't pay. Like, I'm not paying 400 quid or dollars or whatever it was. But I thought, yeah, like Caroline, the networking and letting people know that I speak on podcasts, like letting people know, like, just to say the obvious. But I also find that when I invite people onto my podcast, I don't do an open invitation to anybody and everybody, because I want really good people on the podcast. And I find that 8 times out of 10 they have a podcast as well, and we just do a swap. So that's
but someone, for example, might see that you're a PSA member and go, oh well, I'm gonna target that list, because there's going to be people, they're speakers, they want exposure, And then they do that bait and switch, give you the 5 minutes and try to sell you the 40-minute slot.
Could be. It could be. Now, I think that there are a couple of things if you want to go on shows. One is tapping into your networks, as we mentioned. So do a post, let people know that you are available for interviews on podcasts. And then the other part is that once you have your own show, because if you don't have it, you cannot use it. But once you have your own show and you want to be on a particular show, offer the host to be on your show first. So whenever I want to target a show, I will go on the host and say, hey, I have this podcast. Would you like to be on my show? Most of the time it's them at the end of the interview to propose, hey, why don't you come on my show now? And this has been the best way, because at the end of each podcast, get into the habit. And this is the one thing that got me, I did so far more than 200 podcast interview as a guest outside the ones that I did. At the end of each show, I just got to get into the habit of saying or asking, hey, do you know someone else with a podcast that you can connect me to? That's it. Normally, one interview will give you 1, 2, or 3 connections. But then you never know where this connection is going to be. In fact, that's how I got featured on the largest podcast for entrepreneurs in the world, which was Entrepreneurs on Fire with John Lee Dumas. It's a huge podcast, millions and millions of listeners, has been one of the first people to really blow up in the podcasting world in our sector when podcasting was new. And it took me, I've pitched that podcast for 3 years, not got a response, 0. Every quarter or every 2 months, I was sending a pitch, nothing. I had a guest on my show and I interviewed this guy called Kavit Harriet. Now, Kavit is now the guy that manages all the online and e-learning platform of Jay Shetty. So incredibly well connected. He's a good friend. And I interviewed Harriet on my show, and he was like, what are you looking for? I said, well, you know what? I'm looking for to be interviewed on other shows. Do you know someone? I said, have you been interviewed on Entrepreneurs on Fire with John Lee Dumas? Like, are you kidding me? He's like, no, I've been trying to get on that show for 3 years. I said, I got you sorted. Made the introduction. 2 weeks later, I was on the show, and my social media blew up because I've got at least 500 new followers and connections on LinkedIn in a couple of days. It was strong. But that's the power of asking, do you know someone? Do you know someone else with a show? Do you know someone else with a show? And now your reach, the better the guest you get, the higher shows you're going to be to as a guest. So now it becomes almost like a wheel. And that's why you can be so consistent to where you're connecting with the right people. You're getting interviewed as a guest. You're having great people on your show. You're building partnerships. And when someone asks me, why do you still do your podcast? What many more reasons can I give you? What many more reasons can I give you?
Sorry, Simone. I find as well, you know, these LinkedIn Lives or the Clubhouse. I haven't been on Clubhouse in a while, but you know, these kind of conversations that people participate in, you come onto the virtual stage and all this. I find when I speak on the virtual stage, by the end of that, there's always somebody who wants to interview me as well. Like that's where you'd pick up
that's another great one. So as a starting point for everyone, if you have been more advanced now, you can have more ideas. But if you feel a bit overwhelmed, it's like, oh my God, how many things? Start with putting your post. That's your one action. Put a post out and say, who do I know that is a podcast? Boom. That's the one thing to remember. Everything else can come later. If you have been in this game for a while, then you can have more ideas and then implement more. It is time to wrap up. I know we are about 8 minutes over, so thank you for staying with me. I want to go around and have a round of sharings. What did you get out from today? What was the biggest thing? If there is one thing that was the biggest thing for you throughout for this training, what was that? So I'm gonna start with Shan. I'm gonna start with Shan, and then I'm gonna go with Andrea.
Biggest thing for me is this idea I've been running away for a couple of years now is now solidified in my brain. I know the structure, I know how I'm going to launch it, and I know what guests I'm looking for now. Awesome.
Love it. Please say the same in the Facebook group. just like a little post in the Facebook. I'm gonna ask everyone to do it.
Did you record me?
I recorded you, but I'm not gonna cut this part. So just like write a quick one in the Facebook group. Just do it for me, please. Okay, Andrea.
For me, it's the tech side. You know, I'm actually probably going to get started with the content I already have, but it actually does seem like it's simpler to get started on the tech side than I had thought. You know, I don't have to overcomplicate things like I typically tend to do. So yeah.
Exactly. And even if you need help in the setup, just let me know. We'll get Wang to help you out.
All I need to do is send us some limoncello and I'm good.
Hell yeah. Those limoncello is going down like crazy. All right. Dave.
Well, for me, it's always been something in the back of my mind that it's been like, oh, just what I need, another social media channel that's not going to bring me any results. But now that I'm launching this community, it ties in directly to a business result. So you've kind of renewed my focus on this as something that I'm interested in pursuing.
Awesome. Love it. Joanne.
Yeah, similar to Dave. It kind of shook me up again a little bit because I've been very stale and stagnant with my podcast. It needs to be shaken up. I mean, like if you go back to my episode 1 to 10, it's like, oh my God, I'm like, oh my God. You have to start somewhere though, do you know what I mean? But I think I'm at the stage now where I can up my level again. And I got some great ideas from Dave. So thanks, Dave, when we were in the breakout room. So, yep.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Caroline.
I think for me, it was just like get my ass in gear and get it done. But the structure is brilliant. I love the GTeX structure of just the process of getting it done and formulating. So boom on that. And as Andrea says, the tech, because that's always something that stopped me, but it's actually quite simple when when you just apply it, because we know we can do it anyway. So
yeah. Just take the audio, the Zoom recording, upload it, boom, you have
upload it, and it's
need more than that.
Confidence in just knowing the the equipment that you need. So that list of equipment was really, really helpful. So that just gives some reassurance that we could just go and buy that, get it done, plan and prepare the episodes now. So
awesome.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited. Thank you.
Okay, Jimmy. How about you? What was the biggest lesson for you, the biggest thing for you that you got out of this training?
The biggest lesson was being inspired by Clive Ragg, who I met at the Offer Launch Accelerator program, and he took action, he's done it, and he's doing well. It's like that was good, yeah.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy. Deborah.
Yeah, that it was really exciting because I think, I've even got a spare YouTube channel which is waiting for something, and I'm like got 5 down already. It's like I've done the practice and I'm ready to
let's go
make it serious. Yes.
All right, awesome. Let's go. Clive.
I think the level of detail for me, it was a medium that I hadn't really considered to date in anything I've done. And I can just so much see the relevance of it, and the detail, the strategy, the tech element as well was very enlightening. So thank you.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. Now, if you need any support as well in the execution, let me know. We'll definitely take notes of who said it was going to launch something. So then when you're ready to get in started, in particular for people that are launching into next year, this is a great things to review. So then let me know. I say, okay, now I'm ready to start working on it. So then we can do a little refresher there. Love the support as usual. Keep being you, keep being awesome, and until next time, remember that together we grow exponentially. I'll see you soon. Ciao. Ciao, ciao, ciao.